Amazon's good to get them on.
Sorry?
Amazon.
I have Prime.
Amazon?
Yeah, they're cheap on there.
I could have just done it today because I sent him the message and I was
It's all good.
busy.
Mine's just not a stand. I like that one because they're more durable. I got that at IKEA for $36.
All right, so welcome to the Friday Night Mix Show. We're just sitting in the studio tonight, and it's great to have great friends around and just talking and having fun. Welcome again, Katrina. It's good to see you. Come on, give me that. And of course, I have Laura with me, always a reliable friend and partner on the show. So, welcome to the Friday Night Mix Show. Make sure you're informing somebody, telling somebody about the show. You know how it is. We're just here to create a community where we can have this conversation and we can just talk. And I'm sure you can see that our set is a little bit different today. We're cozy in the house. We're just chilling.
I love it.
It's nice.
You've been advocating for this, right?
Yeah. And my complaints were received.
It was. You're more comfortable having this kind of setup and just
It
talking.
looks good. I like it. It's definitely more cozy.
It's more cozy.
It's a vibe.
It's a vibe, right? Yeah. All right. So let's get into it. People are looking forward to this conversation, and we definitely will be talking about marriage. And we usually pick topics that are really wide, but we just streamline it to whatever conversation we would like to have. And then I've got beautiful, wonderful ladies beside me here.
Oh, thanks.
And it's great to have you guys around. We're just going to be talking. We've all been married.
Yes.
Yes.
All been married, right? And we've all had experience. Particularly when we were having a conversation last week, and you talked about the experience you had, or the lack of experience that you had before you even went into it.
Exactly.
That's thinking, I'm like, okay, let's talk about this thing a little bit more. The rate of divorce has really gone crazy.
Yeah, it's high.
And all of that. And we just, basically today's show is just to talk about the things that can help others out there. You want to get married, you're in the process, or you just recently got divorced, whatever it is that you're going through, I'm sure you'll be able to take a thing or two from the conversation tonight.
Yep.
All right. So let's begin. Let me start this way. I put it out when I was writing the advert for the show, and I said marriage is the oldest institution. Right? We can have a debate about how long humans have, this earth has been. Some people say 6,000 years old. Some people say it's billions of years old, whatever it is. But from the period when man and women started to inhabit the earth, we can say that marriage had become a part of the system. Whether it's by living together as common law or actually doing a ceremony to invite others.
There's some type of unity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this being a Christian show, we would easily go with the Bible, right? So the Bible said, and God created man, and God said it is not suitable for man to be alone, right? And He created a partner for the man, and then the man became married to Eve, and then Eve ate that apple, and now we're all dressed up and all of that, right? So basically, it is right. But that's just by the side, just for the sake of laughs and all of that. But the serious conversation now is, as old as marriage is, we've had to evolve also, because when marriage used to be a thing of the different cultures that men or humans used to have, it's not the same. We're now in a jet age. We now have internet and all of that, and so many information out there. But one thing I wanted to ask briefly when we starting now is, what is marriage? Let me start with you, Katrina. What the institution of marriage? What does that mean to you? Being someone that has been there before, what can you say your experience has been?
Thank you for having me again. And I just want to take a second to say that everything is from my point of view because I do have children and, you know, all that type of stuff. And nothing I do say is to down anybody in the process, just are my facts and my truth. So the institution of marriage actually means a lot to me. It's something I took very, very seriously. The way that I grew up, all I ever wanted to do was get married and have babies. And that happened. You know, so it definitely is something super, super important to me, and it's something I definitely would like to do again. We just haven't gotten there yet.
Okay, so when you say again, share a little bit more light on that, because that would mean that you've been in it before and now you're not in it. What was that first experience like?
So the first experience was definitely challenging at times because I was so young, and I think some of the downfall in just our marriage is the fact that I didn't know myself very well, that I had a lot of trauma that I didn't know. So I also wasn't looking at how compatible we might have been or should have been. You overlook things that you don't know, maybe your standard within yourself if you love yourself enough. So you make decisions on, well, these people like this were like this, but this is better than this. And that's kind of how I made the decision, right? And we also did get pregnant very quickly. So, and I grew up very religious, so I said, you gotta marry me. You know, so I think having the tools, marriage is something not to take lightly, and it's something that you do need to take serious. And if you don't have the tools going into it individually and being able to work together and know how compatible you are, you're gonna be set up to fail, to be honest. You are.
And did you have like any type of blueprint from your parents or leaders in the church to be like, hey, this is what you should expect, or this is how you should behave, or like some type of guidance
No.
leading up to it?
No, I had no successful marriages around me. I grew up from a divorced family. My aunt and uncle, they were married, but I could always kind of see things that weren't exactly what I would want. I probably like movies and romantic things is where I probably thought, oh, it's a fairy tale. I'm going to be Cinderella and my Prince Charming. And then it wasn't, you know, so.
Tell us a little bit about because we're all going to talk about the
Yeah.
experiences that we have.
I can somewhat relate to Katrina just because I did get married very young. I think I was probably 20, 21. And when I think about it now, I'm like, oh my goodness.
Scary.
And I'm not saying that it doesn't work when you're young. Some people make it work. But the way I went into marriage was very unprepared, very much trying to follow the religious view of like, you can't live with someone until you get married, and then of course you fall in love with someone and you're like, hey, this is the one,
That's
let's
it.
do it.
Let's go.
And it's a very immature mentality, right?
Yeah.
And that's not to knock on anybody that's young and trying to aspiring to do that. But for me, I was chasing a fairy tale, and I had good relationships around me. Like my parents have a really great relationship. I had a lot of successful and healthy relationships.
Okay.
But they came from a different time. Things done so differently. So there was commitment, had value, had weight to it. Where in my day and age, it was not, you know, it wasn't valuable to be totally loyal or totally respectable or anything like that. Like things just lose their value, I believe.
Yeah.
The more that the generations get corrupted with certain things, with accessibility to internet, all this stuff. But I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking like, these are questions I should ask. These are some red flags, or these are things that I need to work on, like take accountability for. None of that crossed my mind. None of it. So I did come from a good Christian home, great example, and I still went way sideways when
Because we don't talk about key important things before getting married.
It's true.
A lot of women think, oh, he does that. Well, when we're married, it's not going to be that way. Or you might not like the way he breathes at times. And you're like, what is this? You know what I mean? Or puts the toothbrush. And I think that's where sort of identifying roles, because I think that's important in relationships or marriage in general is that you don't talk enough before you take that step. Am I going to be a stay-at-home mom? Or do I make more money? You could be a stay-at-home dad, or are we going to work together?
Yeah.
How are we going to have religious views? What are we going to raise our kids? There's so many things that people are not talking about that I think are very, very important.
True.
That is, I mean, I like the point that we started on, because that would take me to my story. You guys married very early. I didn't marry very early. And what that meant for me is I had enough time to seek for knowledge. Because I would have said, okay, you've got a great family, you've got a great father, never divorced, so everything is great around you. You had a blueprint. You never had. So that means it's not just about those things.
You're
it's
right.
also about discovering yourself.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I got married at 32 years old.
Yeah.
I'd gone to the university. I've done all that. I started a job. I actually actively went in search of marriage conversations, marriage seminars, marriage conferences. And we had a lot of that in Africa, where, especially in the church, right, we would bring marriage counselors, psychologists, people would come, and I would actively go in search of these conferences because I wanted to learn. I'd always been of this mindset where I wanted to make sure that whenever I get married, I was gonna do good by my wife, by my spouse. It was a conscious thing. I'm telling you, I was a teenager when I was thinking about that. So, and I wanted to be a good dad. I wanted to be a good husband. I wanted to be a friend in my marriage. It was consciously in my mind. So, every opportunity I had, singles and married conference show. Pastor this is coming, Doctor this is coming to talk about it. And I remember some of the shows that I would, conferences or events that I would go to, they would always talk about communication. Like if you want to have a good marriage, you have to communicate.
100%.
You have to have a way whereby you would be able to talk about the things that are very uncomfortable. And the things that are comfortable and crack jokes, create memories, so that, because those memories are very important for the time when things are going on bad. And trust me, sometimes things can go on bad for like 2 years in your marriage. Trust me. It could be financial issues, it could be sexual issues, it could be family related issues, it could be health, it could be anything. But I actually took time to learn and become really matured personally. Then I said, okay, it is time now to get married. And then I went in search of marriage. Now, I'm not saying this is the only way to, get a good marriage.
No, of course not.
Some people get married at 21 and they're still married at...
I know.
I have
75.
friends that got married at 19 and they're still together. A few couples. Yeah, a lot of my friends. And, they're still together. So.
Still together. Exactly. So it's not like, mine is not a blueprint.
Exactly.
But I've found that most people who kind of tend to go through this life, you most likely know what you're searching for. And that's where I'm going to come back to you guys' points, because it almost as if you didn't care about the what you're going to be looking for in marriage. It was just about, I love this guy now, and let's just get married, right?
At that age, you don't understand that, like, the thought of even love is not everything. Is like, oh no, but it is.
It is. And you know everything.
Everything. And so now I'm like, no, love does not sustain. Love helps because you're choosing to love someone, right? But it doesn't help when you're going through the hard times. It doesn't make things better, right? Because now you're choosing through the hard times to love, and it's like, that's difficult.
That's true.
So I think the whole love thing, it's not explained well enough to the younger generation. It wasn't explained well enough to me. And that's where I think a lot of marriages fail, because they're like, oh, he's just great, I love him. And it's like, what if you don't love him in 2 years, or you don't feel like you like him very much?
Right.
Then what? right?
Love languages is another thing. Love languages, because everybody shows and receives love differently.
Yes.
And I think it's important to, so, you know, some people might just, you know, the bills are paid, you got this, and then that's their way of showing love and never get maybe romance or things. So you need to learn if those love languages, can I fulfill your needs? Can you fulfill mine? In our love languages and differences. If they're too different, you shouldn't do it. It's never, you're always going to be frustrated.
Okay, so just a quick question. What age would you suggest for a lady?
I say over 25 and have a degree in something, an education in something.
Fair.
Yeah.
Age-wise, I think 25 is a good age. It's a good starting point, in my opinion. Education, I'm very loose with that because I don't come from a background, you know, I finished my high school, but I didn't get a degree in anything per se, but I've always had a hustler mentality. So
Yeah,
very
I'm the same.
a go-getter.
Yeah.
So I was never scared that I couldn't make it on my own
Yeah.
when that happened in my marriage. Obviously it came with a few challenges, right? Because I did have to do it on my own. But I was like, okay, we'll figure it out. I was very resourceful.
Yeah.
So I think some women can be super resourceful. Some men can be very resourceful
Yeah.
without having an education.
True.
But is it a perk? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
And the reason why, because we also have people watching from Africa. Let me just give you the background as to why we tend to like want to get educated.
Yeah.
Before we get into that, because it's super tough to survive in Africa without a university degree.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it is. Like here, it's cool. Like
Yeah.
you're done with your college, whatever. You always get a job, a good job, and you live a good life.
Yeah.
In Africa, you get a degree in a university, doesn't even guarantee you anything yet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right? So, and that's why we do that. It's not really because we love education. Trust me. It's not like you see Africans come here and they have PhD and all of that. And it looks like, oh, these guys really love education. It's not really that.
There's family pressure in
It's
that
just,
too.
exactly. So it's a status thing in Africa. Like, oh, my son is a doctor.
Yeah.
Degree.
Okay.
Oh, my son is a lawyer. My son he has 3 degrees. It's a status thing. It's part of our culture, right? So, but it helps also because even though it's done in a way where we want to use it as status, but the person also gets educated and gets smarter in life and can move up the ladder in life. And, you know, so
That's good.
the reason isn't really pure, but the end result is better.
Yeah.
Like everybody
You benefit
then
from it.
You're more smarter. I remember my wife telling me that she could never marry anybody without a degree.
Okay.
You know, you're like, yeah, that was she had goals, like, okay, the man I'm going to marry. And that's what I was saying about actually having a picture of the person you want in your life.
Yeah.
It's especially for ladies, it's really important.
It
because
is.
if you do that, it helps you to take out the wrong ones.
Yeah.
Because they're always going
Filtering
to be.
system.
Yeah.
Filtering. No,
It
I
is.
was thinking about that today, right? Because you got all this content now about couples, and I'll watch a video on TikTok, and I'm like, oh, I don't like how that guy was
I know.
behaving with his wife. And for her, it's great. They're laughing and having a good time, and I'm like, oh, he was maybe a little too vulgar. He was a little too aggressive in his speech. I want something more relaxed. And then I see other couples where they're like in the car jamming out, dancing. I'm like, I
That's
like
it,
that.
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
And so it's true. When I was 20, I had a list, but it wasn't. It was more
It's defined.
superficial. It was so superficial. And then maybe one deep thing was like, loves God. But there was no depth to it, right?
Yeah.
And now it's like, my list is probably more exhaustive, but there's intention behind it. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to waste my time anymore, right? I also know much more about myself. I'm still learning a lot of things, but I know what I have to offer and what I can tolerate as well. That other women probably can't, right? So I think that's like,
Yeah, and talking about the filtering system, I would even say here that I didn't marry the person that I actually love. And when I say that, it's not like I don't love my wife. I actually love my wife so much. But the person that I was with, that I thought I was going to get married, that I was like, oh.
infatuated. And
It was obvious that
Yeah.
that love was going to fade at some point. because based on our interaction, I knew that yes, I love this person. I had the chills and all the butterfly, but I knew that something along the line, there's just no depth to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It fades.
And when I met my wife, it wasn't like love at first sight, but it was more or less like we had the same values. We had so many things in common that even if it wasn't like the love I had for that person, I knew that this would last longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, that's the funny part, right? Even though the love is there, love is great, and I love my wife. Maybe even more. I don't know, but like now, it is more valuable for me from the things I saw in her, and I guess the things she saw in me, for us to be together. And we're like almost 10 years now, right? So and it's growing and all of that. So this is just to kind of like put it out there for, like we said earlier, people who are trying to get into, searching for life partners, maybe getting out of one, things to look out for going forward. The topic of today's whatever is marriage memoirs, the good. So let's talk about the good. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's talk about the good. What's the reason? What are the good things to expect in a marriage?
Good communication, good work ethic, a provider, someone soft, gentle for me, and really a good sense of humor. I think it's important to laugh. I think it's really important to laugh.
I know for some it's not, but
for some
most of us.
Have you ever seen anybody that doesn't like it?
There are some people.
Some people are just dry and they're happy like that.
Really?
They don't have to
Yeah,
laugh.
true.
How do you get through life?
I don't know.
It's miserable, but they get through it.
That's why there's some grumpy people.
So what are good things that you maybe expect in a marriage or you've encountered in the marriage?
For me, I want like really good partnership, right? So when I think about partnership, there is collaboration, right? So teamwork is a big thing. There's loyalty, and I'm not just talking about loyalty about like no infidelity, stuff like that. But there's loyalty even when you're not in the room with the friends that you're associating with, right? How they talk about you in the workplace. Like there's that loyalty of like, that's my girl or that's my man, right? Even if you don't like them in that season, you're gonna honor them, right? You're gonna be loyal. So for me, I like that collaboration, loyalty, respect. Those are good things in a marriage. And then also like, I want to be able to serve somebody. In my brain, I'm very servanthood focused, I guess. And I think that's one of the reasons God has us on this earth, is to serve one another. There's fulfillment in that. We're blessed by that. So if I go into a relationship, that man has to have that same mentality. Like, how can I serve her? And I want to know, how can I serve him? It's not for me. It's not selfish. It's supposed to be selfless. So those are great things
I
that
agree.
like
That's nice.
I love like that, and that's where I'm like looking forward to whatever God has in the future, because I'm like, I have a lot to give, not just material, not just physical, but like emotional support, right? You want someone that's gonna be your ride or die, your partner in crime, right? For the silly stuff, for the serious stuff, for the happy stuff. You want that person to just be like your rock.
Yeah.
So that's what I want.
True, and someone that has your back also, all the time.
Yeah.
I'll add all of what she said to mine too. I just feel like, I was like, what do I really want? No, all of that too. The partnership is really key, because when it is like doing business, like it is. A marriage is a transaction and a business in a sense. Is that you need to be on point with each other, support each other, piggyback off each other. You do something nice for me, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna do something nice for you too. And you have the yin and the yang type stuff, right? Yeah, I love what you said. That was awesome.
This, lady, I don't know who the speaker is, but she said sometimes people go, oh, marriage is always 100, or 50, or whatever. And I was like, okay, I used to adapt that mentality, right? Because it made sense to me at the time. But then she goes, no, sometimes Fola's gonna come home at a 60%, and Yomi only has whatever 40 capacity.
Yeah.
She doesn't have much to give, or vice versa, right? Sometimes you're gonna go to your wife and be like, I'm running at 20% this week, babe.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to cover the rest. And so I think it's not a moving goalpost, but it's that communication where you can be like, I need you to come in and be the strength in our marriage this week, but next week I got you. Just, you know, give your partner that space to be safe and heal, grow, vent, whatever deal with work stuff, whatever is going on in life. And then, you know, have the accountability and also like self-awareness to be like, okay, he's not doing so hot this week. He's not going to help clean. He's probably not going to be a good dad this week. He's going through it rough.
Yep.
But I got you, because then next week when I'm tired, he's got me.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I love that. It's like this, right? You're
I
always
heard that
each other.
analogy years ago, and I was like, oh, that
It's
is
a
so
good
true.
one.
Because you go into things thinking, oh, it's 50-50 or whatever. And it's not. Sometimes it's
realistic.
90-10. Like, you know, I don't know. But you have to be willing to do that in order to have a successful marriage, I believe.
True. So let's talk about the art part. I know we're talking about the good things now, but let's talk about the art part. If marriage is, and I absolutely accept that analogy, if it's a contract, if it's a partnership, if it's a business, can two people be like at par in a marriage? And when I say that is, can it be that both parties can be the CEO of that marriage at the same time? Or it has to be that one person has to say, okay, you know what, you are the CEO, I am your whatever it is, or I am the CEO and you're mine, but it doesn't mean that I'm gonna pull you down or you're second to me. That actually not what it means. But what it means is understanding roles. And why I'm asking the question is, so is understanding roles in marriages, does it help the marriage to also last long?
I believe so, because if you know, now that in saying that, roles can change and shift and all of that. But I do believe if you understand what, like for me, I want to be in my feminine woman role in my marriage. I want to be able to serve my husband and certain things, and vice versa.
And he would be the protector, the
Right.
provider.
So I think like you have, depending on your marriage, I think you would have different times that each could be the CEO or what have you, right? I think like maybe sometimes your husband is and you're supporting, or maybe, you know, like I do my TikTok and maybe my partner isn't really into TikTok, but I'm shining over there, but they're still here supporting what I do, vice versa. I think you have moments, and then again, bringing it back to the partnership, you bring it all back together, and I think that really is a core for making a successful marriage.
I lean on the traditional side a lot more with this specific question. Not just because I grew up seeing my parents being like very much dad as the leader, mom as kind of that like whatever you want to call it, assistant, whatever.
Co-pilot.
Yeah, because I know people will always take it negatively as the woman as a second, but I do believe in that, that God made it ordained like that. So God, man, and then family, right? So for me, I think if you pick a man and he has a plan, then he has a purpose. And the girl comes in, or the woman comes in,
Polishes it.
as the helpmate. And it says we are the helpmate in the Bible, right? So I want to come in as the helpmate. Now, if any of us watch that movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, there's like a joke in there where she goes, the man is the head, but the woman is the neck. And the woman Exactly. So it doesn't mean we don't have power or influence our marriage. We actually have a ton of influence and power in our marriage. But it all comes down to our delivery, how much we're submitting to our husband so that he can respect when we have some intuition or God has spoken to us in prayer. He's attentive to what we feel. And then he's going to be, you leave it to him to lead, right? And then you stand back and you go, okay, I gave you some word, gave you some advice for what I think is good for the family. Now he's got to go and kind of do his thing. And sometimes it's not going to be the right decision. But I feel like as a woman, if you're submissive and you trust him, you're also going to have to sit with those mistakes too, and then be there for that man. So I really do believe it's man and woman, and there's a support system there, even in the weak moments or in the hard moments. I think it's a difficult task, but
I have a hard time with that one because of my experience, and because I have been a single mother for so many years. I've had to be more masculine and gain those things. So in order for me to, I do not have a problem to be submissive, but a man is going to really have to pave that path, and me be able to respect him and let him lead me that way. It just hasn't happened yet in my life, but I am capable of those things, and I would love that. But you're gonna have to definitely show me that you can do that, right?
Yeah.
The reason why I said that is because I know that in so many marriages today, there's so much immaturity going on. And the little mistake a man makes, or even the woman makes, like, no, we can never be together again. You know, you cheated on me, or you're always shouting, and you know, it's always as if there is a tussle between both parties. It should be a partnership, and that means sometimes you're just gonna lay back. I mean, I'm only saying, all I'm saying is, if it mustn't be violent. Anything that has to do with a man striking you or beating you, get out of that marriage as fast as you can.
Absolutely.
But we're just talking about between mature people, both parties. It's never always going to be smooth. And it seems to me like for every time that you get to that rough patches, people kind of quickly jump out of the bus so quickly. Like, you know what? I don't think you're for me because you never listen to me when I talk. You know, should it be that fast where we jump into all this? You know, you would just want to get out of the place because you feel you're not heard.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm asking that question, because I've seen great women that are, I mean, I could mention a few names that are doing exploits in the world. And the husband is behind her, supporting. You don't even know the husband of the woman. For example, I will give you an example. There's this WHO, is it WHO? No, World Bank. The World Bank, she's a Nigerian. She's been in the spotlight since, at least I've known her since 2001 or thereabout, when she became a minister in Nigeria. She's blazing the trail. And a lot of people don't even know the husband. And she's all over the place. She's now the World Bank CEO. She's doing great things. And I could mention all the names like that, you know, and the husband doesn't care. The husband is supporting her from the, from behind and cheering her on, and, so it's not like it has to be that the man has to be the head and he has to be, not always, right? But I just sense that it seems like, we tend to don't understand the role of marriage anymore. And it seems like marriage now to most people, it's more or less like, if it's not my way, then it's the highway.
Yeah.
But it could be deeper than that. It could be, especially when you find someone that this is the person I really want to be with, then try and take out time to make it work before it gets into. Now, that's a very simplistic way to say it.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things complicated, there's so many complications when it comes to this issue of marriage. Okay, let's go to the bad.
Well, and this stems off of what you just said, right? So if this amazing Nigerian woman is, trailblazer for this, whatever she's doing, her vision, then that's her work life though, right? Some of these women are not the boss babe
when
at
they get home, they're different.
He's the king. And she's going, babe, you got me when I'm out there in my suit looking fresh
now let me
in
make
my
meals
heels.
for you. Now let me wash your feet.
Yeah. Guys, so for me, that's how my dynamic would be. Because I'm very much like, I'm busy, I do the work, and I have side hustle, and and I'm always busy. And so if a man were to come into my life and he's not as busy, when we get home, I don't want to be the boss at home. I want to be a wife. I want to be your lover, your best friend, your companion. I don't want to be like what I do at work, right? So I think those things can also be balanced, where the man gives a spotlight to wifey when she's out doing her thing in the world, but at home there's a place for him, because I do not believe that a healthy masculine man operates in the shadow like that, where he can't shine either. Yeah, exactly. So I think that naturally men like praise, they like affirmation, they like to know hey, I'm doing the thing, I'm taking care of my family, I've got everybody here. So I think there's space for that in both, right? With the woman being the super powerful CEO, and then him taking care of the family, or whatever that dynamic is. The bad thing leading to that is where we start maybe sitting in a very toxic femininity, or toxic masculinity. And I know this is talked about everywhere on TikTok, and everyone's like, oh, men are not acting like men and women are not acting like women, and everyone has their own definition, and there's so many intricacies. But the bad is like, if, for example, I married someone that maturity was lacking, and then you try to stick it out. You stick it out for 8+ years, you have children, you work on it, you're growing, you think you're growing, but that person is just not able, for whatever their personal reasons are, right? There has to be a point where you go, okay, something's got to give, right? Because in your situation, for example, you've got 10 beautiful years with your wife. There's been struggles in that, and you've come out stronger. That's why you've lasted, right? And you will continue to last. But it's because you and her share the mentality of, let's make this thing work. Sure. But if one of those people isn't on the same team and they're on a different page, there's no sense. It doesn't work. And that's, I think, where it gets ugly, where it's always tit for tat, right? You're like, well, I did this and then you did that and da-da-da, and then it's arguments, and it can escalate to whatever degree depending on the couple. So I think if there's a lack of respect, a lack of maturity, a lack of vision for your family as a whole, so many things can just go like sideways, right? Yeah, I don't know, that's my take on the ugly.
Well, see, I think as women, we give
the bad, actually.
The bad. I think that we give a lot of warnings. We're willing to work it out. We're willing to try to help them and whatever we can do to make them succeed in the family life. And this is where it really goes into compatibility. If you are not compatible, you're not going to have that partnership. It's not going to work. You're going to beat your head against the wall like we're not seeing eye to eye. And it comes to a point that you do have to go, because do I want to raise my children like this? I fast forward, go into my previous. I got divorced, or my parents got divorced when I was this age. My cousin, her parents got divorced when she was 25, and she nearly lost her mind. And I was like, looking at this like, well, I didn't have a perfect life, but I'm pretty okay. And she wasn't, so I'm like, what do I want to do? Stick in a marriage and stay there and be arguing and all the things, and then raise our kids not as healthy individuals and continue a cycle, or break it, and with some sacrifice and a lot of pain and, you know, a lot of guilt and a lot of stuff at me through that. It was really difficult, but I'm glad I did, because sometimes it doesn't work. You can't pray it to make it work. I'm sorry, somebody at church told me that, and I was like, they told me I didn't pray enough in my marriage, and that's why I got divorced. I didn't pray enough for it to work. And I was like, that's not fair. That's not fair to say to somebody, you know?
It's what Fula said. It's very, we can generalize everything, but every situation is different. Exactly that. It's circumstantial, it's situational, it's very complicated, it's intricate. You have all these different variables. Your age, your background, the maturity level that you're at, right? Financial status in the moment, that can, anything can flare up certain things. That's not to say that I condone divorce though, even though I come from that. I'm not like, if my friends have a problem, I'm not like, oh, leave him. No. I'm always like, is there something that maybe you can change? That, you know?
I have a good example of something. I have a friend that I actually met on the TikTok. She's a very dear friend to me. And she was going through some stuff in her marriage, and I've been on both sides, right? And I was just like, I just looked at her on the call, and I said, you know what? Are you sure there's something you just can't do to work it out? And I was the only person that said that to her. And that meant a lot to me. And today, a year and a bit later, they're still together, they're communicating better, and I was the only person to encourage. I said, you know what? You have children together. There's no abuse. There's no certain things I'm looking at. Are you sure you can't just give a little clean slate and try? I believe in that.
Sometimes it's annoyances that get in our way, and we're like, oh, those are deal breakers, because little things that you said, right? He gets mad too, angry, whatever. Sometimes it's like, hey, that annoys you about that person. You've also been living with them for however many years. You're going to get annoyed. You're not going to be like rainbows and sunshines and unicorns all the time. So I think that's a very good point. I think there's a big difference. And sometimes women, we, and hopefully I don't receive hate from this, we tend to lean on the side of like, we're always right because we know better. But sometimes we exhaust the man where he's like, I'm done talking, I can't with you. And then the girl's like, cool, it's because I'm right. And it's like, no, sometimes we're the ones that are cultivating a really unhealthy atmosphere for our marriage. And if someone doesn't call us out, or if we don't see it on our own, we're the ones helping with those bad cycles. And then both of you guys are just at odds. But if someone's like helpful and they're like, hey,
I think it's very important, even in a relationship marriage, to still be an individual.
yeah,
I think that is the other thing. In my past, I gave up everything of me, what I like. I didn't even know what I liked for many years. Having kids, I didn't know who's Katrina up until 3 years ago. I started to figure those things out.
Yeah.
So I think it's important, if you are having those struggles, take a breather. You know, have a girlfriend over, go out with the guys, or whatever it is you like to do, you know, and you will come back a better person. I always say everybody needs one best good friend to just vent and talk, because guaranteed you'll go back to your relationship or your job or whatever, and you will be better by having that time.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a good point, because people think, oh, if I get married, my husband is going to be my best friend, or my wife is going to be my best friend. Trust me, sometimes it doesn't work that way.
sometimes I don't like
You
you.
need someone
You
else.
need someone
that
else
you
that's
can just
trustworthy,
go
you know?
vent
Yeah.
And just go talk about, that lady is going to kill me. You know, just something to get that out. Or maybe a gym place.
Or something,
Maybe soccer, maybe
yeah.
something.
Get an
You know,
outlet.
maybe a psychologist.
Yes. Yes.
So what are some things that you and Yomi have individually that when the times get a little sticky, a little rough, you can go to? Like, just to give us an example.
So, Yomi's got really great support system.
Okay.
Good.
Our family is, she's still got a mom, a dad, she's still got a siblings. She's super close to a sister, especially. They talk every day.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Every day.
That's a
like
difference
they
maker.
talk every day, and I noticed that that's really good for mental health, because I can be crazy. I can get
Really?
You?
I can get annoyed and all worked up and all that.
Yeah.
Sometimes, sometimes I could get into my shell when I'm creating, trying to create a show, I'm really entrepreneurial in nature, right? I've never worked in Nigeria. So when I came here, I started working. I could do a 9 to 5. I've never, so sometimes I could be gone for days. Sometimes I could be in the house, but I might not be there. I'm just super busy thinking about what's the next thing. And she needs someone to talk to. She needs someone to be a friend.
Yeah.
Trust me, we do play a lot, and
Yeah.
you know, but you know, sometimes women can be a little more demanding than
We are.
Yeah.
We need-
No.
We do need more.
Yes,
We do. Yeah.
That's okay.
sometimes, and I've noticed that when you give, then they want more, and they want more, then they want more, and I just don't have that capacity to give that much, you know. So, but I noticed that because she's really close to her family, especially her sister, they talk every day, so that really helps me.
Good.
Because once she's done talking to them, she feels better. And then we can just talk about the things, little things peripherically, and then I can move on and just go and do my thing. I can sit down on my whatever for 2-3 hours just walking and stuff.
Yeah.
And I know women don't like that.
Yeah.
Like, how can you be at home and you're not home?
Well,
Yeah.
some. It's a little different because I do a lot of work from home and social media and things like that. So, like, it just depends, right?
Yeah.
The communication is where that comes in. Or you're like, you know what? I know that I've been busy doing this, but give me this and then I will
The
do
funny
this.
thing is, she doesn't even seek for it anymore. Like, she's not actively asking for my. She knows that when it's time, I
Yeah.
will give.
Yeah.
Right? So
That's
she's not
good.
really, because we've been together for so long, she kind of understands me and just
Good.
allow me be.
Yeah.
And then I understand that I just allow, because we've been together for,
You've got
I mean,
more of an
when we
understanding.
started, it was more or less like, oh, you've been out and all of that. But now I know, I mean, in the last 3 years, she's not complained for once and said, hey, you're not giving me enough time. And I know that I know, but guess what? Sometimes I just say, okay, you know what? Pack
Yeah.
up your stuff, let's go to the hotel.
Thank you.
Or
But
pack
that-
up your stuff, let's go
That's
out and eat,
essential,
you know.
though,
It
because
is.
a lot of men, they're not like that.
They're not like that.
not built that way, and they haven't been trained or shown, whatever you want to call it. So you have that understanding that it's like, I've been in my man cave for 5 days. It's time to surface. I have 2 kids and a wife.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do, right? And these people are waiting because they, as women and the kids, we crave the attention to be with our man. And I think that is such a good privilege that you can still say your girl is waiting there for you. Because lots of guys, their girl doesn't want to hang out with them anymore, right?
Yeah.
So there's still that likability. But if guys could have that where they're like, I can go away and she feels safe because I'm coming back to take care of those things. But some of us have issues in that area because there was no return, right? It was
Exactly, and that's where resentment comes.
There's no attention, there's no this, there's no that, and it's like, oh, but why are you upset? And it's like, because you're not realizing that you've married a whole other human being that needs you. That's why we got married, right? So I like that. Good for you.
There was a point in my marriage that we drove by where he worked, and my daughter said, "Oh, Daddy lives there," and I was like, "Oh," I was like, but then he got it though, because then I was like, "You're not realizing." Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm home, like, you know, I still worked in my marriage, and I was like,
now you can.
now
see.
you understand what I've been trying to say. Yeah.
So I think what helped me, because, and for any man out there thinking, okay, how do I do this? It's not like I was born to know that.
Exactly.
Like I said, I went to a lot of training.
That's
and people say,
wonderful.
oh, there's no training for marriage. There is.
There's
Because
a
there
lot.
are conferences on marriage, there are conferences on, relationship, how to build healthy relationship. There are meetings and venues, churches,
Yes.
places where you can get good knowledge about how to treat each other. And trust me, there are bad marriages in churches. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Of course.
Don't
We're
even
not
get me
putting
started on
anything out of
that. Like, they are bad, but it
Very
depends on how you're receptive to this thing. Like I
Yeah.
said, from a very young age, I sought out for these things. I wanted to learn it. So anytime I know that I'm having a short term, like, this week, I think I'm not giving enough time. I deliberately do these things. And some men are so masculine
Yeah.
Yes.
that they think I don't have to do it. Why should I do it? I'm already providing for this house.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I work 17 hours every day
It's the
to
whole other
No.
extreme.
That is super necessary. See, if
Yeah.
you want to be happy in your home, your wife has, listen, let me look at this. If you want to be happy in your home, your wife has to be happy. What is the truth? Because especially
Men
when
have
you
to be
kids,
happy too. Like, it goes both
Yeah,
ways,
both
but
ways, absolutely.
majority of it does rely
but
on the
your
woman being
happiness
happy.
my happiness as a man is to see my wife smile
Yeah.
and my kids, being taken care of.
Yes.
I can't do it.
Exactly.
I'm not naturally built to raise children. I'm not. Most men aren't. You
No.
find maybe single, maybe divorced dads with their kids, or single dad with
But
their
it's
kids.
hard.
It's hard.
Yeah,
I
it is.
know it.
Yeah.
She was asking me recently, she was like, if I travel, how are you going to cope? I was like, I'm going to cope, I know. But in my mind, I knew, hey, don't deceive yourself. You can't cope.
Yeah.
Because where do I want to start? I don't even like cooking. I just wake up in the morning, I go to my place of work, my wife will bring my drink,
Yeah.
my coffee, tea in the morning. Like, there's a routine. Like, everything is just so set up. She would go shop for the kids, she would make meals. I can't do it.
Yeah.
So why would I not try to make sure she's happy in the home?
Yep.
And trust me, I have my shortfalls. I have a lot of it. But when I know I'm wrong, I have to admit that I'm wrong and just try and make up for it. Can we go to dinner? What can I do? Should we take a break? What do you want me to do? There was just 2 days ago, I saw that the kitchen was rough. I went upstairs, she was like, she's running temperature. I didn't tell her anything. I just went downstairs, washed the plate, took care of the kids, bathed the other one, fed both of them. I have 2 boys. And then I didn't tell her, I was just downstairs waiting. And then she came, she was like, despite the fact that she was sick, she still came and said, what do you want to eat? And she was like, oh, what happened here? Have the boys eaten? And they're like, oh, thank you so much. And then she went back upstairs. Once in a while, we have to do this thing as men.
It's true.
We have to.
It's
Where
true.
the roles change sometimes.
We have to. But some men don't want to.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And that's why Katrina was saying, listen, it shouldn't be just that one way.
Yeah.
Because as a man, even though you're the provider and you're working hard, you have to understand the period where you need to really be below and do those things to make
Yeah.
when you see marriages that work, it's because the both of them,
Yeah.
they're working like 101% to make it work. It's
Yeah.
not, you see people happy and dancing in cars and doing videos and they're happy and they're genuinely happy. Trust me, when it's tough, they're together.
Yeah, they're
They're
putting in the
planning
work.
how to get out of it together. Not like one person is working hard and the other one is like, I don't care. After all, I'm bringing in the money or
Yeah.
all of that. You know, so it is really hard work in marriage,
It is.
and that's the bad part.
Yeah.
Now let's
Bad
go to
and
the hard
hard.
Oh, boy.
Hoggling.
The ugly. Okay.
Oh, I got
what
some.
did you want to talk about in the ugly? Because we only have 10 minutes.
Mine will be very brief. I think when you go to name calling, swearing, and disrespect,
Emotional.
those are the things that are
Violence?
so difficult to come back from because you can't unhear. You
Yeah.
can't get it out of your head.
Yeah.
And you've disrespected or been disrespected,
Yeah.
whichever, vice versa. Those are my things. If you ever get to that, even in a relationship, it's game over. That's the
Emotional
ugly.
abuse?
Emotional abuse,
Emotional.
yeah.
Really bad.
It sticks with you.
Yeah.
It
And
takes
comes in different
10
forms.
positive thoughts to put one from one negative.
That's right.
Especially
comment.
coming from your partner.
Yes.
Like you can take it outside if someone calls you, hey,
Whatever, but
that's fine.
your husband or your wife, whichever, like
Yeah.
that is the ultimate no-no. I think that is and that's where it goes to the ugly. Because once you do it once, then this is where the toxic comes in. Then it builds again, and we're like, wow, I called him a whatever name, and he called me, and then you're now you're at this level, and it just keeps getting uglier and uglier and uglier.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. There's different levels to how a couple can disrespect each other. Obviously, things that are just like off the table is like, or great ways to ruin your marriage is physical abuse,
Yeah.
right? Infidelity, and don't get me wrong, some people they've overcome this kind of stuff too, which
True.
to me is like, whoa,
You're a superhuman.
yeah, you're super, because that's not how I'm built. But again, it takes two to build something back up, right? It takes the man to be like, hey, I'm sorry, they go through therapy or whatever, or the woman, right? But same, when you're getting to the point where you're degrading someone and you just have no respect because you wouldn't swear at someone that you have respect for, that's where it's like, how are you then supposed to be okay with sleeping with that person, loving on that person?
It's so
catering to that
shattering,
person? Yeah, you're like, really? Like, you called me this, you did this to me, or whatever.
Now what?
It's hard to come back from that, right? And I'm not saying it only happens to women. I've seen a lot of my guy friends
Yeah.
heartbroken over a girl that couldn't stop cheating, a woman that was disrespectful in public when they're like, oh, look at my husband, he's da 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 da, and talking bad about him in front of her friends. It's like, you are publicly shaming this man, and then you expect him to go and serve you and love you when you treat him like that. Like, no. So I think, like the disrespect and then abusive stuff, that's where things just start deteriorating in a marriage.
Yeah,
For
I mean,
sure.
you guys you're correct, because one of the things we said at the beginning of our marriage is whatever whatever happens, it must never lead to calling up names.
Yep.
And I mean, sometimes you could have issues where you're just so angry you don't even want to talk to the person. Every marriage would have that.
Yeah.
And it's tough because when you're really angry, you really just want to that outburst, right?
You want to
wanna
lash
give it.
out.
You want to lash out. It takes maturity to understand that, listen, whatever has been said can never be unsaid.
Exactly. Emotional reaction.
When you're angry, especially in marriage, please keep quiet.
Yes. Yeah.
I remember my mom just left. She came to visit us, and one of the issues we had, and it was really bad, and I didn't say a word because if I was going to say something, it would really be bad because I was really angry. I had to take the key to the car and drive out of the house. I'm talking about late. And people see marriages like, you guys have been together 15 years. Well, you guys are so... No, there's some deep things going on in marriage.
Sometimes you're like, I don't like you.
Yeah. And I had to drive out of the house, and I was there till like 12:30 midnight. Then I drove back. Of course, my mom couldn't sleep, she couldn't sleep, and all of that. And then, why am I saying this? Sometimes just leave those words unsaid.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Because the moment it comes out and and it's there, trust me, you can't take it back.
Yeah.
And if you can't take it back, it might hurt for a long time. And it might just be the little thing that chips at it that keeps breaking that foundation
Yeah.
Yeah.
where everything then crumbles maybe 2 or 3 years after.
Exactly.
So, but it takes a whole lot of maturity. My pastor would always say, listen, maturity is delaying gratification. Because what will gratify you at the moment is really getting angry and saying your mind. That's what makes you up like, I need to give it to you.
Yeah.
But trust me, for you to have a long and lasting marriage, and this has to do with both parties, right?
Yeah.
You have to find a way to, if you know whatever you want to say, if someone says it to you, you're not going to like it, don't say it.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit good at not talking too much, you know, especially when I'm angry, I can be quiet. And I'm really angry and boiling inside, but I've trained myself to be able to do that. And so it's easy for me. My wife can still talk and all that, but she knows also because she's been with me for a while, she knows that I'm not going to reply or respond.
Yeah.
So she doesn't do it like when the marriage started, it was worse, right? You know, so these are all things that I believe also that you learn from each other
Yeah.
growing up. You understand each other more, and then you become even better.
Yes.
You know, so, and that's why it's important that maturity is very important in marriage. In fact, I say communication is important in marriage, but I think I'll put maturity first now, and then communication next.
Emotional intelligence, which is not responding with emotional responses.
Self-awareness.
Trust me, it's hard.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna lie.
Of course.
Sit down here and feel like, but especially as a man, I would say don't just talk back.
No.
Don't.
No.
I know you want to do it. I have friends, well, maybe not close friends, but I have friends who are like, they're just talking it out to their wives, like you said, like outside, you're like, what are you wearing? Like, don't do that. Especially in front of others, right?
Yeah.
Don't do it. Find a way to always respect your woman outside. Even if she's done something wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Find a way to like cover her shame outside, and then when you get home, you can then in love and respect explain to her why this thing you know might not be right doing it outside and all of that.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I know that, you know, anytime you find me outside with my wife, I'm always going to respect you. You're never going to talk to my wife in the hour. You're never going to disrespect your wife.
Yeah,
in the hour.
absolutely.
And even if she's wrong, I'm still going to have her back and still kind of like support her. And all
That's a key. That's a big one.
Yeah.
that I know I would do. And I know for her also. She's always going to support and all of that, you know. So it's very key to have a lasting, you know,
I
marriage,
agree.
I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
Well said.
On that note, you know, I mean, it's marriage memoirs. You know, it's one key thing I think people should take away from this is never think it's rosy.
No.
I don't care how that marriage, you know, lasts long or, you know, there's been times when it's been really shaky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but another thing I think we should take away is you need to, as an individual, make sure that you have enough in you, maybe enough knowledge, enough training, enough capacity in you. So, and you need to build yourself to get to that level.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just 10 years of marriage. I'm not going to ask to see if I have all it's still work in progress. But I've seen 30 years, 35 years,
Oh yeah.
45 years.
Yeah.
And when you ask them, I've asked a lot of men are like, you know what, your wife has to be happy. That's the only
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I try to make sure that when I'm wrong, I apologize. When I'm right, I apologize
Yeah.
for a man.
I think both there's humility that needs to be had by both sides,
Yeah.
right? Where you're just like, you don't always have to be right. You're gonna have to say sorry when it's not your fault.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And I think before we kind of finish off, because we're talking to so many different audiences, if you're planning to get married, do those, right? Make sure you have capacity, educate yourself, have the knowledge, make sure you have a filtering
And if you're
system.
not matured yet, wait.
Wait.
Exactly, because
Wait.
maturity will come if you seek it, right? And then
Sure.
for us, talking to the girl or the woman or the man that's coming out of a divorce,
Yeah.
be patient with yourself, but like,
Love on yourself.
yes,
Yes.
take that time
Yes.
though to really explore who you are, really reflect on this stuff, because I can come out of my past marriage and say, well, that person was at fault, but I still had a part in that. So one way or another, and I can't be immature and say, no, it was all that person.
Exactly.
Like, no, I had things too where I came out with tons of lessons learned. And so now I can apply, though, right? And I can shift and adapt. So people that are looking for love after a divorce, don't lose hope. Because I promise there's good stuff out there, but focus on self-awareness and self-improvement. Yeah, and then look for someone that matches that now correctly, not like the same picking system you had before, right? Yeah.
Any last words, bro?
No, I agree with that. And sometimes those butterfly feelings are warnings, so be careful.
Yeah,
it's not always that, like you said with your wife. It wasn't just all this right away. So sometimes, in my experience, that is actually a warning sign.
Yeah.
So, and love on yourself. And respect yourself, respect your partner.
Yeah.
On that note, respect yourself, respect your partner. Next week we're going to be here also, and we will be on the Friday Night Mixer. Thank you, ladies,
Yes,
for joining.
thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
God bless you.
Were you going to give me a high five or shake my hand?
I don't know. Whatever it is. All right, take it away. See you
Thank you,
next week.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.